Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Prologue. This is our second Prologue, and what we're talking about is our dance month, even though every month is dance month at UCCS Theater and Dance. But we're highlighting some extraordinary choreographers and artists from around the country, all culminating with a piece from Olivia Langley called Hecatome, original piece that'll be here, hopefully in person, sometime in March. I shouldn't say sometime, we know the date. It's the 12th of March it begins, and you can get tickets on our website now. My name is Kevin Landis. I'm the host of Prologue, and I'm so excited to introduce Larry Keigwin, but before I do, I just want to thank all of the people who make Prologue possible. That is the Chancellor's Office here at UCCS, the Dean's Office, the College of Letters, Arts and Sciences, Visual and Performing Arts Department, and of course, TheaterWorks. And I am coming to you from the Osborne Studio Theater, an empty theater, sadly right now, but it will be teeming with activity, we hope, soon enough. And I'm joined here with my dog, of course, who's sitting off to my side, but he will not be making any appearances this time. Joining me in a little bit as well is my colleague, Tiffany Tinsley-Weeks, who's a senior instructor of dance here at UCCS. All that leaves me to do now is welcome Larry Keigwin. Larry, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
One of the things I said, Larry, in presenting this piece when I was sending out some of the promotional materials, we've been doing Prologue now for 11 or 12 years and over 100 guests, and we've only had 3 or 4 who have joined us more than once, and you are one of them. And the reason is, of course, is because you mean so much to this community. You've done so much for our dancers in the last few years through workshops and with your festival, the Green Box Festival in Green Mountain Falls. You're a pillar of our community, and we are appreciative for you being here again.
Oh,
with that, glowing introduction, not to embarrass you at all, but, I wonder if for those people who maybe don't know you, if you could say a little bit about what you do, a little bit about Keigwin Company and your connection here to the Springs.
Sure, yeah. So my name's Larry Keigwin. I'm a choreographer born and bred in New York. I was the gotta dance kid who had circus training at a very early age and then quickly segued to musical theater. I was a dancer playing hooky from school on Club MTV in the 80s and went to college for dance at Hofstra University and then graduated and started freelancing with a bunch of contemporary dance companies. And so I credit a bunch of different choreographers for influencing my style because I danced with many different choreographers. And then I started dancing on Broadway and choreographing my own work. And, it was all very much a natural progression. And then I guess about 16 years ago, formed my own company, which I think is a company full of wit and theatricality and very athletic and playful and hopefully meaningful and provocative at the same time.
I wonder if you could talk a little bit, because you danced on Broadway, you used the word theatrical, and one of the things we try to do, as you know, in the Department of Visual and Performing Arts is to break down the sort of the boundaries between arts. I tell my, the theater students, no, you need to learn how to move, you need to learn how to dance, and the dance students have to take acting. Could you talk a little bit about that intersection, specifically of theater and dance, but arts broadly? I know Green Box Festival is more than just performance arts. It's celebration of arts in its entirety.
Yeah, I think more than ever, there's so much cross-pollination. When I first started auditioning, 25 years ago, it was track. You were a modern dancer, you were a theater dancer, or commercial dancer. And I completely see all of those boundaries are down, right? I remember auditioning for Twyla Tharp's Moving Out, and there were all these theater dancers in the room, and she improvised a phrase and then she had us all repeat it, so there was zero structure. And I remember a few of the dancers being a little shocked, but I think some of the most exciting art is art that includes all of the forms, right? So the visual arts, the music, and Green Box, we hope is and will become a place in Green Mountain Falls that fosters that cross-pollination.
We welcomed KT Nelson from ODC last week for a talk. And one of the things we were chatting about, and I wonder if you could weigh in on this a little bit, perhaps in relation to Keigwin Company, is that there sometimes is a fear, I know not with dancers, but with people who are in performing arts, maybe not specifically as dancers, worrying that they're not going to be able to access the work, not know what it's going to be about. And I know watching your work, it's so is witty and joyful and delightful. When you create a piece, how do you think about storyline, or what are the building blocks of your aesthetic?
Yeah, and every time I create a work, the process is a little bit different, but there seems to be patterns. And one of the patterns that comes through is that I'm fishing, I'm looking for that hook that will bring narrative, will bring a theme, or a story. But not all the time am I making work that is narrative driven. So, for instance, I was working on material once, and then someone did this move, and it reminded me of a flight attendant. And then I had the costumes, and then I had the whole dance of elements, a whole evening of earth, fire, water, air. And so I just don't know when the moment of inspiration is going to strike, but I think it's my job to find it and to excavate it with the dancers. And I hope that that all resonates with the audience. And I just try and keep creating with the sense of a world. Like, does this fit the world? And I think what the audience is craving is certainly narrative, but if it's not narrative and it's abstract, they want to know that it fits the particular world.
Right. I think one of the best ways maybe we can dive into some of your work is by watching a bit of a video that I think we should watch the whole thing. It's about 8 minutes in length, and it's one of the most, I will say this definitively, it is the most joyful bit of Zoom choreography I have seen all year. And when I saw this, I think Tiffany shared it with me. When did this happen? We're going to look at Juilliard Bolero. When did it happen?
Yeah, so we kind of went into lockdown March 12th. And 2 weeks later, Damien Woodsall, the president of Juilliard, called and said, we have to make something about this community. And so I think our first rehearsal was like March 23rd, and we put it in the can probably a month later.
It's amazing. And when we saw it in the theater and dance program, we're like, oh my gosh, we got to do something for our students. So we did a very small, like us talking to the camera and saying, it was lovely. It was beautiful. But this is the pinnacle of Zoom choreography. And I feel like we should watch the whole thing and then talk a little bit about it on the other side. Let's do it. I have watched that so many times this year. It brings me so much joy. Thank you so much. So Larry Keigwin choreographed and developed that. Could you, I mean, I have a million questions, but could you tell us a little bit about the inception of that piece?
Yeah, so I've been creating work to Bolero that popular 15-minute Ravel score for like 15 years now, and it's always been a community-based project. And when we went into lockdown on March 12th, Damien Woodsall, the president of Juilliard, called me and said, let's do a community work for Juilliard. And I said, well, let's do one of my boleros. And he jumped right on board. And then we thought about, well, let's reimagine the score. And initially we thought we'd keep it 15-minute, the same structure, but we'd contemporize it. And the whole music department at Juilliard knew Ravel's influence. So, you know, there's examples of some classical and some jazz. And then one night I thought, well, 15 minutes is too long. Let's half the score. And we half the score. And yeah, we created that work in about a month, about 2 weeks of very intense rehearsing and capturing and storyboarding, and then about 2 or 3 weeks of editing.
Unbelievable. How many people were involved, and how did you gather all those people? Christine Baranski to Yo-Yo Ma to all of the students?
So honestly, it was a passion project for everybody involved. I directed it, but Damien was really engaged in this, and they had a donor who gave money for extracurricular creative endeavors, say. And so it was all funded, and the people who really pulled it together were the administrators at the school. They were keepers of many, many, many Excel documents, and you know, every 6 seconds was storyboarded, and all because it was all new music composed, inspired by Ravel's Bolero. There were hundreds of musicians involved, and each of those musicians had to be playing at the right time in the score on the video. So every musician had to be tracked, and every actor and dancer had to be tracked, and Damien wanted it to be really about the whole school, and so that included the alum. And he just really got on the phone call, and you know, in a moment's notice, he'd say, "Larry, I got Patti LuPone ready in 30 minutes. Can you hop on Zoom?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, what is happening?" Yes, of course, you know, and there was no time to worry or really fret over the creative process. It was just do.
Yeah, Patti LuPone never calls me, so that's but could you, I mean, from a dance perspective, and you talked before the video a little bit about just sort of finding everyday gestures, and what was your entry point into this work? Is it just as simple as Patti LuPone calls, I got 15 minutes, I got to do something, or what was the whole arc?
Yeah, and I'll touch upon this for the class I'll be teaching for UCCS on Wednesday, but I really wanted the frame of the box, and so everything's kind of intimate, or there's a lot of this intimacy. This like this motif is in there. You know, I had Yo-Yo Ma doing these things. I just built vocabulary that became little motifs, and then with the dancers I could improvise a lot more. But there was a lot of play. You know, each Zoom session was probably an hour or two max. And you know, I would just say, I see that staircase behind you. Can you run down that staircase? Oh, you have a puddle outside. Let's go do a tap dance in the puddle. So a lot of it was scene building and play, and lots of improvising, and of course some set choreography.
Yeah, there's a question that I'm looking down at our YouTube page as well, because generally there are better questions here. And Caleb, one of our students, says, Larry, this work synthesizes codified movement with pedestrian everyday actions. How does pedestrian movement weave into your work and influence you creatively?
Oh my God, that's such a big question.
I know, right? Go with that one.
So that's always played in my work. I've always wanted dancers to feel like dancers, to feel like people, really. And it comes from the way I dance. I didn't want to be a tree or an animal. I wanted to dance like Larry. And so it's been always very important to me that the players in whatever I'm creating feel most themselves. But you know, the Bolero Juilliard, we knew we wanted to make a day in the life for a student, a day in the life for an artist, a day in the life for a human. So those were our anchors, and it really, the trajectory is completely storyboarded. And you know, I knew I needed a shot of someone having a coffee. I knew I needed a shot of someone, you know, running out of the house. and we didn't know where the pandemic was going. We really didn't know if we were going to open the door or not. And also the release of the video, we had to release it at a date that was very sensitive. You know, in the beginning of the pandemic, we didn't want to look like we were being irresponsible by running outside unmasked. You know, and I'm not answering your question, Caleb, but thank you for noticing that. I do take it into consideration that I want people to look and feel like everybody.
You know, this happened, this video, this creation happened early in the pandemic. And while we were watching it, you know, we were sort of chatting a little bit and you said, oh, there's already things that are dated, or I see that it's older. And I was like, well, it looks as fresh as can be to me. But what are the things that you're noticing, or what have you learned over the year about distributing work like this?
Well, I mean, we all just picked up the pieces and tried to pivot quickly, right? And Zoom became the common denominator. And so we quickly learned how to do that. But now I see artists creating work that is way more sophisticated in terms of quality of how it's filmed, or yeah, I mean, I think the quality has changed. I think that we thought that Zoom was our only outlet, right? And now we realize, oh, I can get a filmmaker involved. I can really amp up the lighting. I can, but I mean, I think that's one of the things that's charming about this work, is that it is very homespun and very coming from a place of necessity, right? It was necessary for us to do this.
One of our choreographers watching just sort of sent me a question to ask you a little bit about the what came first, storyboarding or just sort of experimenting, and how did that all fit together?
That's a good question. I mean, I think they kind of ran together at the same time and was always being updated, and the storyboard would change if someone had an idea that we wanted to capture. But we did start out with storyboard first, and then and phrases, just plain old modern dance phrases, you know, and we were able to edit the phrases out. Yeah, like I knew I wanted a trajectory of the day. I knew I wanted certain points to be hit. I knew I wanted to capture frustration and the joy, and this. Oh, and then the tiles. That was also very new. That language of, I call it tiles. So when we were filing all these clips, we would say that's a 4 tile, 9 tile, 12 tile. You know, so we had to be conscientious of not only having solo shots, but including everybody. So that tiling, that Brady Bunch tiling, made me think of an artist, Spencer Finch, who we featured in Green Mountain Falls, who works in tiles and color. And so we started really thinking about mosaics. This goes back to Kevin's question earlier about how all the arts can play. So the influence is not just dance making or filmmaking, but it's like antennas are out. What can we capture from contemporary art world? So Spencer Finch is a visual artist who works with tiling, and I thought that was really cool. So the last image of skies, I was like, oh, let's do all blue ending, and have everyone with their iPhones flip their phones up to the sky, and then we'll do a blackout from the sky.
Yeah.
Period. That's my end of my thought.
No, I love it. And thanks so much for indulging us on these questions about this piece. Again, it was so powerful to me. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Tiffany, but by way of segue, Tiffany shared this with me back in whenever that was, March or April. And we've been showing our students ever since. So Tiffany is going to go on with some questions more about you, Larry, and your process. And thank you.
Thank you.
It seems like there's so much support right now for dance artists to reevaluate our relationship to dance and how we want to present it. There's a lot of encouragement to try new things. What are some of the new things you've been doing lately? Like you mentioned tiling, that you've been experimenting with and you might carry forward from here.
You know, and that's a great question. And we're constantly learning new things because technology is constantly changing. And so like one of the things I learned, I thought I was only creating for the Zoom lens, you know, the off and on and all of these things. And then I realized, oh, everyone has a phone in their pocket that they can do their own recording. So then I started learning how to coach dancers to record themselves. right? And so I would create a solo on Zoom and then have them record it on their phones and pick angles and all these things. So a lot of thing that I'm learning is how to direct, right? And it's a lot of it is directing, not as much choreographing. And now I'll just segue. I'm working with North Carolina School of the Arts, and I'm choreographing a stage dance, and then and choreographing the camera, and then I'm going to go down there and film it. So it's just like another step forward where everyone still needs digital content, but I think that the Zoom choreography has been kind of explored already.
Yeah, I have the same sense with the dance composition students. Now we're learning sound editing and film editing because we can create more polished 2D work. It doesn't have to be in the homespun Zoom work anymore. We can take it to the next level.
Exactly.
And the next question I had goes back to, I love when you said antennas out, because we're going to go really far antennas out in the scope of your own work. When you think of the progression, I know you started choreographing as a little boy outside of your home, but when you think of the trajectory of your career, what are some of the things that have changed over time and what has influenced those changes?
Oh my gosh. The people you meet, the dancers you work with, the more comfortable you get with this yourself, or how you become maybe more open to other art forms. Like, I used to, in my 20s, I only looked at dance. Now I go to opera, or I did go to opera, or, just go to a museum. I often tell my students, you have to be a sponge. You just never know when inspiration is going to strike, and you have to experience all the arts and see how they influence you. And but one of the things that did change a lot for me was when I didn't dance at my own work anymore. So when I was in my own dances, I was creating a lot of the vocabulary. And then when I stepped outside of being in the dances, I leaned on the dancers to help me create and to generate material. So, that was a big transition. And I think that's led me to today, to being able to know how to direct people and to coach vocabulary out of people. I don't have to make everything, and I don't like to, and I'm lazy.
And don't you think it's better when you're outside of it? I remember this exact stage when I was first choreographing and I was in all of my pieces with my friends, and it's very collaborative and no one really knows what the big picture is because you're all just having a good time. And then once you step out of the stage and you're looking at everything as a director, as a choreographer, and asking yourself, why did I think it was a good idea to be in all of my dances?
Exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly the first show I had. I was in every single dance.
Oh my God.
But I think you play to your strengths when the strengths are there, right? And no one wants to see me dance, so I'm better on the outside now.
That's not true.
No, I mean, I don't want to see myself dance. You want to feature everyone's strengths.
And don't you love now with dance for film, as we are getting older, it's so great when you can just cut for a second, take a breath, the director's talking to you as you go. You don't have to do the entire dance before you get feedback. It's all just so instant.
I don't know. I just worked on a little tiny little dance film, a 5-minute dance film, and it's just me. And I spent 5 hours doing 1-minute dance, so it was actually more exhausting. Because the director just took like literally 30 takes. So that's already 30 minutes.
And what project is that going to be?
Oh, it's an Oklahoman director is doing a project on sort of the ordinary becoming extraordinary, the pedestrian becoming an athlete, becoming a dancer. And it's a little sweet story about a gentleman who is a laundromat attendant, and he is dreaming about getting out of that job, and he finds himself on stage.
Oh, I love it. I can't wait to see that.
Called The Laundromat. Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, it's all brand new. And I just say yes. It was fun for me. I got to learn more about filmmaking.
And do you enjoy that? Is film one of the areas that you're interested in exploring more?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the evolution of my career is about seeking out work that is different and new. And I really like the idea of always doing something new. Like, maybe I'll choreograph the Super Bowl. Too. I mean, I just want to do things that are new. I don't want to repeat the venue necessarily. I can repeat my themes and my vocabulary and everything, but I want to do new things, and film is definitely there.
My last question is a fun one, and maybe the Super Bowl is the answer. But if you could choreograph one thing that you haven't already, what would you jump at the chance to choreograph?
This may sound so cheesy, or not. But I would be very upset if Lady Gaga developed a musical and I didn't choreograph it. I would be very upset. I just feel like I like where she is in her career. I think my vocabulary could fit really well. And I think I'm finally in a place where I can tackle narrative. And Broadway wasn't always easy for me. And it was challenging, but I feel as if I've honed my skills a little better. And and the Super Bowl, sure, I would like that scale or Olympic on opening of the Olympics would be. I'd like to try the stadium scale, and then go back to a small shoebox.
Whenever I think of your work, I always think of you as a Maximus, so it doesn't surprise me at all. Like Lady Gaga, Olympics opening, Super Bowl.
I mean,
I'm disappointed.
You might as well just dream big, right? And there's no harm in that. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. And I enjoy the journey until it does happen.
Kevin's also someone who likes to dream big.
Yeah. Why not?
Well, I don't know if I'm prepared for the Super Bowl yet.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Can I just say one other thing is those big projects, even like Juilliard, you're not doing it alone. No one's saying figure this all out on your own. There's teams of people, right? And so that's what comes into play is how do you collaborate with team? And so you're never doing it alone.
And then everyone's doing what they're good at. You bring in the experts.
Right. And then you have to ask for it too. Like, I'm not the keeper of the Excel spreadsheet. That's not me.
So not only have I received messages on YouTube, but also texting about your Super Bowl dreams. So, I mean, if this gets like Larry has to direct the Super Bowl. Of course, he'll choreograph the Super Bowl. So it's obviously going to happen soon. But one of the things that you just said, and I wanted to echo something that our dean, who's watching, said is how important the administrators and the donors and the people who are supporting, and you mentioned that, and I just want to acknowledge that as well. I mean, in these difficult times, how important it is for all of us to be leaning on each other and building from each other's talents and skills and hard work.
Without a doubt. I mean, the Bolero Juilliard would not have happened without the fierce, literally just unbelievable organizational skills of the administrative team, and without a very generous super donor in New York who wanted it to happen.
Yeah. So another question I've got, and I take it as sort of a funny question, but I'm going to put it to you, Larry, is that the Lady Gaga, the musical, choreographed by Larry Keigwin. What could you talk a little, since I think we all know a little bit about Lady, why does that inspire you so much? And what does Lady Gaga, the musical, look like?
I just want to choreograph her damn claws. What does it look like? It looks wild. I've never gone to one of her concerts, but I've seen them on the show, on the YouTube. And I think her imagination is when it runs wild is just fascinating. What does it look like? I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's a total non-narrative, experiential, immersive theatrical experience. I'm not sure if it's a narrative journey of her bio, but maybe it's colorful. That's all I can say.
We can't wait to. Of course. This is generally part of the evening in which we turn it over to the audience, but of course we can't really, but I'm going to do a little bit of it as I read their questions. But Tiffany, please jump in if you have other questions. I think, taking this, it's not a joke, of course, Lady Gaga, the musical. We assume it's going to happen and the Super Bowl is going to happen as well. But seeing like that big scale as a goal that you want to reach to, who are some of the choreographers and dancers and inspirations in your life? And I wonder if you could take that from two standpoints, as you were growing up, but now as well.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. I mean, I think the people that inspire you are all the people within your vision, your scope, so the people that inspired me when I was younger were the dancers that were better than me in the studio, or the teacher, or the piano player that was a wizard at the keys, so others are inspiring. Nature can be outrageously inspiring to me, people having an argument on the sidewalk can be inspiration to me. But, if I was to name drop some people, I would say, Twyla Tharp, I thought was very inspiring. Jerome Robbins, I loved his crossover. Well, both of Jerome Robbins and Twyla, I think both had crossover careers from ballet and Broadway and contemporary dance. And I find it very interesting. And then some of my contemporaries, the choreographers that are in my age bracket, who I think are doing wonderful work, Pam Tanowitz, Brian Brooks, Camille Brown, Kyle Abraham, all of these incredible artists are inspiring to me.
And you're also inspiring the next generation. This time, in my time off, pictures from when Julian Barnett was in residency with us this week in February last year, who was one of the founding members, right, of Keigwin Company.
Mm-hmm. He actually came on because someone injured their foot. And so my agent at the time said, "Oh, have you seen this guy, Julian?" I said, "No." He says, "Well, why don't you take a look?" And that's how that happened. You just never know.
And because of that connection, I was able to get in touch with you 10 years ago when I stumbled upon your company in Greenbox and saw this amazing outdoor concert in a beautiful space, mountains and trees. And I was so glad that I had that connection to Julian so that he could put me in touch with you.
Oh, that's so sweet. Wow. Small world.
I just want to throw in a couple of questions from our viewers, Larry and Tiffany, and this one from Lynn Vidler. What approaches do you take to developing new leaders for the field? Not just dancers, but choreographers, company directors, and creative innovators.
How do I mentor or coach or?
They say, what approaches do you take in developing? Well,
we
should go in all of those directions, or mentor or coach.
Yeah. So I am, I'm 48 years old. I'll be 49 in a couple of weeks. And I feel like this idea of mentoring and coaching and fostering and supporting younger artists is relatively new to me, but is something that's very much on my mind. And, one of I think going to see things, being an active audience member, and then I jot down, I keep a file of artists I see and I'm responding to. This is a big question that I've never thought about, but it's a great question. I think artists need just tremendous support, and I am also in a position where we can provide some support in Green Mountain Falls. And so we've developed an artist in residency program up there, and where we give an artist 4 weeks, and it's kind of unstructured time for the artist, but I think we should be doing everything. I mean, there's just everything we should be doing to foster the next generation of artists.
Well, it's so clear. I mean, even if it's hard to identify all the various ways, you're so doing that with what's going on in Green Mountain Falls. And I wonder if that's a segue a little bit to talk about that for those viewers who don't know what this Green Box Festival that we keep referencing is. Could you say a little bit more about that, Larry, and how it started?
Yeah, and I want to go back to the support thing, because I'm just thinking, like, even a little note, a handwritten note, or a Facebook comment on an artist page, responding is a big way that I think we can support people. You know, you often think, oh, I don't need to tell that person or they're busy or something, but no, it just responding to artists and what they create. Yeah.
Well, and
So
can I just say how important that is, Larry? Sorry to interrupt, but
Yeah.
but you know, in the several times that you've been with us, and you know, and Tiffany introduced me, and it was as much as writing to you and saying, would you mentor, would you work with our students? And you know, people like Larry and and the people that we like to platform on Prologue have that devotion to teaching and that devotion to growing, even if you humbly don't know how it all works. I mean, just the fact that you say yes, that you work with a student and give them affirmation is a gift. And I just wanted to make sure that that was highlighted, because that's something that Tiffany, I've noticed about you since we've met you, I think.
You always give that gift generously. When we ask guest artists how many people they're willing to work with, your answer is like 40. You're like fine with having a gigantic group in the studio.
That's funny. Oh, and so teaching, to go back to that great question, teaching is another way of mentoring, and you know, and not just blowing it off. You know, you can teach and sometimes not prepare, but I think if you really prepare and you really try and give everything that you've learned and pass that on, and I think that's very valuable. So Green Mountain Falls, as everybody knows, is a little small town of, you know, 700 to 1,000 year-long residents. And my partner, Christian Gassi, has been going there his family has been going there for 100 years, and it's a special place for him. And when we started dating, I was traveling out there, and we started just doing family talent shows. In the church. And then, you know, we said, oh, if I'm going to spend a couple of weeks there in the summer, why don't we bring my dance company out? And so we did that at the church. And, you know, 12 years later, one thing leads to the next, and we really enjoyed doing it. And we enjoyed mixing with the community, and I don't know, we just really enjoyed it. And so the Green Box Arts Festival is a festival that mixes dance, contemporary art, installation art, music, camps, culinary, evening classes, jewelry making, all sorts of things, you know, and it changes all the time. And it's a 2-week festival. And I guess the big news this summer is that we're working on a permanent sculpture by the world-renowned American Western artist, James Turrell. And so he's creating something called a sky space, which is a small room for about 25 people at a time. And there's a hole cut out at the top, an oculus, I guess. And you just view and meditate with the sky.
So yes, as if on cue. Thanks, Jerry.
My gosh, yeah.
Here's walk us through these. These are some of the...
Yeah. So these are all different installations probably around the world. I don't recognize any of them off the top, but they come in all different shapes, sizes, but you'll see that the interior has a lighting show, right? That is a very slow lighting show, probably about 45 minutes long. And then there's the hole cut out, and each piece is commissioned a little differently. Ours will be the sky space in Colorado will be a little bit smaller than these.
Could we go to the next one, Jared? So these are the exteriors.
Yeah, and these are all very different. But the one, you know, you see one over here that has that is built into the lawn or built into a hillside or something. I know he fancies that, and then the one on the left looks enormous. I think that's at Rice University in Houston. And yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I mean, they're all very different. James, Mr. Turrell, is working on a major project in Arizona with craters, you know, really like huge landmass craters. Yeah.
I think we have an image of sort of how this is going to situate in Green Mountain Falls. Is that sort of a rendering of it up on the hillside?
That's it. And, you know, there's probably many sky spaces around the country, but this will be the first one in Colorado. And so, yeah, it'll be situated on what is Red Devil Mountain, which is right over the lake in town. And so it's a relatively small work. There'll be 2 ways you can hike to it, and
I think we have
then
it from the vantage point of where, there it is, right? Is
so
that
there,
sort of what it is?
yeah, exactly. What else can I say about it? I just am excited. I hope it's completed in time.
So tell us, so how did this project come about? This is an extraordinary artist. How did you nab this get, and
Oh,
how's the building going?
and I cannot take credit. There's Chris, my partner, and he has a family foundation that is very pivotal in making this happen. And we've been bringing installation art, temporary installation art, every summer for the last, I guess, 12 years. And then it just dawned on us that it would be really, could be very important to build something that's permanent, right? And so we were just thinking, who are the artists that work well in nature, about light, about the West, about meditation, all of these things that we felt would be perfect for that community. And James Turrell came up, and I think it was a phone call to his gallerist. And then last summer, Chris and I went to Flagstaff, where he resides, and we had a lovely, lovely meeting with him. And one of the things that came up in the meeting that he really enjoys is that he's made Flagstaff, Arizona, a black sky. Is it called black sky? Dark sky county, or dark sky city, and how there's so much light pollution in our lives. And so, hopefully we'll work towards making Green Mountain Falls a dark sky community.
So this opens, fingers crossed, we think, what day did you say?
Oh, July 10th.
And the festival this year is, what are our dates?
Oh my gosh. So this is 3 weeks before that. So June 28th, 29th. Yeah. No, probably a week before that. I bet you there's someone watching who knows.
Well, I suppose we could look it up.
I could look it up. Yeah, look it up, greenboxarts.org. And the another exciting thing this summer is that is happening there is we're doing a bubble residency for American Ballet Theater's main company. So there'll be 12 dancers coming out with a choreographer for 5 weeks, and they arrive May 24th to 25th. And so the choreographer Silas Farley is going to make a work on them. So we've never had, it's much bigger this year. We've never had artists there for 5 weeks, and then the festival itself is 3 weeks.
Larry, I looking down and I see there's a number of questions that keep coming up that I hope maybe I can synthesize into one, and it's this around community. And Beth Carlson points out your inclusion of community with the Bernstein piece was amazing opportunity. Obviously what you've done, you and your partner have done in Green Mountain Falls is extraordinary. Pablo writes, you mentioned Boleros have all been about community projects. I wonder if you could talk more about how his process builds community or is about engagement with an already existing community. And of course you can take that any way you want, but I mean, Green Mountain Falls seems to be one of the sort of the central focuses of that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, what is there without community, right? I mean, is there one thing that the pandemic has taught us is how important this is, how much we crave social life, being social with people, dancing with people. It's just that there's nothing more than that. I mean, family, community. So, I mean, it's just everything really. It's what makes us social creatures. And I really think it's a necessity. But the first Bolero I made was Bolero NYC, and I wanted to make a work about New York, and the Bolero score can be a little trite, and I just thought, well, I can't make a piece about New York with, svelte dancers. Let's really cast 50 people according to the current census report. And that's what we did. And so I've built 15 of those around the country. And it's always, I wanted to really reflect the community. In New York, we said we wanted it to look like the subway. And that's kind of what I think it did look like. That might be a Joseph Papp quote, by the way. Is that his name? Anywho, I'll just plug my new community project that is not necessarily funded, but it seems to be moving along, is to take Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue and reimagine that score, contemporize it, and call it Rhapsody After Blue, but build it site specifically in parks. So I'm looking at Central Park here and trying to build park activities, rollerblading, roller skating, Pilates classes, bicyclists, anything that locomotes, and try and choreograph a plaza dance that celebrates certainly the city and being outside, but also athleticism, exercise, health, and wellness.
I have to very shortly do our thank yous, but Tiffany, did you have anything else you wanted to throw in? I don't want to cut you off if you do.
I just wanted to thank Larry. It's always a joy having Larry join us. The master classes he's taught at UCCS. His company was the first to dance on the Shockley Zalabak when we opened the Ent Center. And when we're talking about community, I always feel like you have invested so much into our community, and we appreciate all that you do.
Thank you. I enjoyed every minute.
And that just leaves me to thank all of you who are watching. And if you have friends or colleagues or people who love dance or just love the arts generally, and you want them to watch this hour, we will put it on our Prologue YouTube page. I don't know how you search for that. Do Prologue Kevin Landis and it'll pop up. And I'll upload this sometime in the next couple of days so people can watch it. Oh, we got confirmation from Ormayo telling us that June 21st is indeed the start of the Green Box. So before the end of the hour, we got that figured out. Again, thank you so much to our sponsors. I hope you all will join us again next week. We're going to be doing a talk led by one of our recent graduates, AJ Vafiades, talking about hip hop dance with a couple of hip hop artists from town. And then, of course, again, Hecatome coming in March, assuming we can do some in-person stuff, at least at a safe distance. Larry Keigwin, thank you so much for joining us. Tiffany, thank you so much for co-moderating with me. And to all of you who had questions on our YouTube channel, thank you so much. And thank you again. Have a good night.
Good night.
Good night.